Good evening and welcome to our Bobcat Family Connection event. Tonight's focus is registration for incoming freshmen next year. We're super excited about next year and welcoming you guys on campus to be a part of our Bobcat family. Throughout the year, we host various family events like this to provide information for parents and students and allow families to grow together as a part of our Bel Air community. Tonight, again, we're talking about registration for next year, and our school counseling office has a lot of very important information that you're not going to want to miss. We'll go through that tonight. Also, actually, I'll show my screen to you now. This is our high school website. You may want to navigate here. There is on a separate device, a phone or tablet or something, so that you can follow along with the documents today, or you can find them later. In this tab, we have a For Parents section, and you'll find Bobcat Family Connection. And if you click that, on the left side, you see 2022-2023 registration for incoming freshmen. It may also show up in the drop-down for you at some point. And these are the 4 documents, including the PowerPoint presentation and the different forms that students are going to have to fill out. Those are present for you right here that you can click and download. And then within 48 hours, right here in the center, we'll have a video recording for you to be able to go back and reference the information from tonight. And, you know, as you might have questions working through this process. Then on February 15th, so in 2 weeks, same time, same place, we're hosting another live event on executive functioning, and we have a guest speaker from the community coming in to present to our families, and we include you in that conversation as well. They're going to be going over strategies for how to organize and how to schedule tasks and things for students and even working professionals. So it would be a great event or conversation to participate with your student and as a family to learn a lot. And at the end of our presentation this evening, Ms. Knight, one of our school counselors, will go through those details with you, giving you maybe a little bit more information. At the end of our presentation tonight, there's also going to be a question and answer time. At some point, you will see a question and answer is going to pop up on your screen, that ability to ask them, and you can ask those questions throughout. General questions we will answer out publicly at the end of our presentation, and the individual questions our administration and school counselors will be responding throughout to you to answer those questions. Again, thanks for coming this evening. We're super excited for this information that's about to be shared. And without further ado, our brand new principal, Mr. Rob DeLeva, would like to welcome you this evening.
All right, so good evening, everybody. My name is Rob DeLeva, as Mr. Kassouf mentioned there. So again, I just want to thank you for tuning in tonight. It's this informational meeting about course registration for our incoming freshmen. In terms of my background, you might not have realized that there is technically a new principal at Bel Air High School. I assumed responsibilities there in January 2nd. Mr. Commandor did retire at the end of December, so that's why we were saying that I'm the new principal there. I do have Bel Air ties. I was a teacher there for actually 13 years, so it's been 12 years since I last taught there. I was there last in 2010. I actually spent 1 year as a teacher in the new building that's currently there. Prior to that, did all my teaching in the old building. When I was there, I was a math teacher. I was a coach of multiple sports. I was a department chair, sponsored pretty much every activity you could imagine. If they needed help, I was there to do that. But after I left teaching at Bel Air High School, I went the assistant principal route. I was at C. Milton Wright High School, I was at Aberdeen High School, and then the last 2.5 years, I was the principal at Swan Creek School prior to being transferred over to Bel Air High School. So it was a nice homecoming for me to be coming back here in January. So before I let the counselors take over, I just want to kind of go over a couple things, in terms of my take on, that freshman year and really, every year thereafter. because you gotta plan ahead. So as freshmen, there's freshman parents as well. Many of the courses that your child's going to take, they are prescribed to meet graduation requirements, and some prerequisite courses as well. Now there are some choices, and that's what the counselors will walk you through that tonight. Based on your students' interests. And one thing that in talking with freshmen, one of the first thing I always like to do when they're in the first few weeks of school is ask, what's your favorite thing so far about high school? And they always just say the independence. We don't have to get walked to here, we don't have to get walked to there. We can pick where we want to sit in the lunchroom, and all the things that go, with added responsibility of being a high schooler as opposed to a middle schooler. But with that becomes a lot of comes responsibility, and it's a process. So one of the key components in that freshman year is to establish your habits and routines that's going to lead to academic success. So then that way you have more options as you get to your sophomore year, your junior year, your senior year. If you fall behind, if you're in terms of your credits, you start to lose those options as you work through up to your senior year. So again, structure and routines are going to be huge for you as you start this next year. With that, some other things to remember, and this is actually for both the parents and the students, is you don't want to overextend yourself in high school. A lot of times students want to do it all, and sometimes that's too much. So you want to actually leave time, to enjoy your classes, the clubs that you can get into, the athletic teams that we have. Leave time to be a kid. Okay. Again, you don't have to do it all. But I also will say it's a different story or a different path for every student. It's not a one size fits all. You have to remember that as well. And I speak of that, through experience. I have two recent Harford County Public School graduates. They just graduated the previous school year. And the nice, where I can say one size doesn't fit all is because they were twins. And they definitely, they came obviously from the same roof, but they definitely took two different paths, but it was the right path for them. With that, I mean that they took different electives, they took a varying number of AP courses, they participated in different clubs and different sports, and they even choose differently how to attend school their senior year. I had one that chose to go part-time every day of the week, and I had my other daughter, she chose to go full-time 5 days a week her senior year. But when it was all done, they both found the right fit for them after high school. They both entered college. They both entered with a different number of college credits. They both found a school that fit their academic and financial needs. They're both participating in athletics. I've got one that's playing D3 lacrosse, and I got another one that's playing some D1 club sports. But the key is they're both happy. They weren't burnt out by the end of high school, and they learned how to handle a lot of the stresses that come with high school. And still, they were still challenged, but they were also still having fun. So just remember, it's okay to see your parents, to see your students being challenged and struggle a little bit. That's all part of the learning process. But I want you to keep those things in mind as you're starting to plot out, this 4-year future for your kids. Yes, you're setting them up for success, but it's also your kids, and they should be having fun and some options in that as well. So that's just my message to you as we start this up. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Noss.
Thank you, Mr. DeLeva. So great to hear the wisdom you shared with us, and I'm going to share a little bit of the same topic for just a second here. But we're welcome to Bel Air. We're happy to have you, and welcome, parents. We're very happy to be here tonight. All 4 counselors are here today to talk to you all, and we were able to have a recording of this presentation, basically similar presentation to your students today in 8th grade math classes. So every one of your kids was able to see a similar presentation today, and this is one of the best parts of the year for us. We actually loved going over to the middle school in the past and sharing with them and just seeing the excitement on their faces. So it was a little bittersweet today, knowing that it was happening, but it wasn't alive. but we still got the message across, hopefully. And high school is a really exciting time for kids, and I know that all the 8th graders are very eager to know more about it and to actually participate in high school. And regardless of where your child is planning to attend, much of the information that we share today is relevant to any high school that they attend, especially public high schools. So please pay attention to all of that. And I don't need to tell you that as parents. I do usually for the kids, but you guys are here willingly and able to hear what we're saying. So we're excited to go ahead. So I'll be presenting this PowerPoint, and I'll just go through the first few slides, and then I'll pass it on to another counselor. The counseling office in the high school is split up by alphabet. So I'm Mr. Noss. I have last names of A through F. Ms. Hackett is G through MI. Ms. Knight has MO through P in the biomed students, and Ms. McKinney is Q through Z. And we're all here tonight again. You'll hear from all of us. And we do split up alphabetically instead of grade level. But either way, we do stick to the same students all 4 years, so that's good news. So we just each have a little slice of each grade level for every year. So there's our email addresses and stuff, so you can reach us. So Mr. DeLeva did an excellent job sharing about the difference between high school and middle school. And the big theme I was going to share, same theme he said, is that level of independence that kids have, much more so than high school, but than middle school, sorry. But with that does come some responsibility, as he said. But it's nice. They don't have to walk in line in the hallway. They don't have to sit with their class in the cafeteria. They can go to their locker between any class period. That lot of freedoms there. So again, with that comes some responsibilities, and we do see some 9th graders that don't quite make the transition as smoothly as we'd love, and they're just not used to that freedom. So we rein them in, and they figure it out by second semester. They're pretty on target. The other thing that big difference that I notice is that it's more of a community, and I'm trying not to knock middle school. Middle school is great, but high school really is about the community, and so the clubs and the sports and the activities that they're involved in really create a cohesive community. There's school spirit there, and really get and so I really encourage students to get as involved as they can, with limitations, as Mr. DeLeva said. But it's great if each kid participates in some activity extracurricularly, and that's something I wish I had done more so in high school when I went. But that's something we like to push, and it really does turn it into instead of just being an academic place to get their schoolwork, it becomes much more of a community. So those are the two things, the independence and the community, that we like to highlight with our 8th graders. We will go into the nitty-gritty of the presentation now, as far as picking classes and terminology we use in high school. Much of these terms you'll recognize as parents. You're pretty familiar with them, and we borrowed them a lot from college. If you think about it, a lot of what we're talking about here is college vocabulary. And so once high school hits, students begin earning credits. Some of them do earn credits in middle school with math, but most credits will be earned in high school. There is a limit. There is a minimum graduation requirement of 26 credits to graduate from. So every student has to have 26 credits or more to graduate high school in Harford County. Semester, you guys know what that is as parents, 2 quarters. We have 2 semesters every year. Elective is a class and that is not necessarily required to graduate. It's just a class that they choose to take based on interests. Requirement, of course, we know what that is, or graduation requirement. And a prerequisite is a class needed to be taken before another one, just like Spanish 1 is a prerequisite to Spanish 2. So again, these are terms that you guys are familiar with, but the kids aren't quite as familiar with. The schedule. High school is set up very differently than the middle school. We are on a 4-period day, so every class is about 85 minutes, and so there's less transitions that way, and there's more concentrated studies. When we first started this years and years ago, we weren't sure how it would work or if it would be favorable, and we really do enjoy it. We do like it a lot. We noticed that the students are able to focus a little more on 4 classes at a time instead of 8. They also, if you think about it, homework, they only have 4 classes that they have to worry about each night instead of 8. And when the assignment is assigned, they have 2 days to do it. So we have a Monday, Wednesday schedule, and sometimes Friday, that's A day. And then Tuesday, Thursday, and sometimes Friday as the B day. So we have 2 different sets of classes. It doesn't take long at all for kids to get used to. And most classes are all year long, except in 9th grade, they do take PE for half a year, which ends in January, and then health is the other half, and sometimes you start with health and go, so semester 1, semester 2. This is a typical example. The next 3, I think 2 or 3 slides are a typical example of a 9th grade schedule. So this student has government first period. School does begin earlier. I think you guys are aware of that. The homeroom bell is at 7:27 in the morning, and then first period starts about 7:37, 7:40. And so that's what you do first period. Second period starts around 9 o'clock. Third period starts around 10:30. And then 12:30 is when 4th period starts. So this student has those 4 periods, and then B day, he has different ones. So again, A day is Monday, Wednesday, sometimes Friday. B day is Tuesday, Thursday, sometimes Friday. The next slide is another example of a schedule. A little different. This person has daily math. Some students, about a third, maybe a quarter to a third of the students have daily math because they're a little behind on math and they want to get them caught up. So 3rd period is always going to be math on A day and B day, and that's why we showed this schedule, where everything else is still every other day. And I think there may be one more sample. Yep, there's one more sample. This is more of a honor student or a biomed student. If you see some AP and honors classes, these are able to be taken. And again, as Mr. DeLeva said, we may not want to max out the students on all these classes. This is pretty much the most difficult schedule we can have for a freshman, although you can have maybe one more honors class instead of guitar or Spanish. But this is an example of a very difficult, challenging schedule. Okay, graduation requirements. This is very similar wherever you attend, and you can definitely see that the requirements are heavy in the 9th and 10th grade. They lighten up a lot in 11th and 12th. So when students do what they need to do in 9th and 10th grade, they are very much freed up in 11th and 12th grade to do a lot of different things. We have some kids that go to go to Hartford Community College, some kids that do part-time work. So a lot of options if the student does take care of 9th grade and 10th grade and get a lot of the requirements done early. We did highlight one requirement there that's changed. Current 9th graders and under and younger have to take 2 half years of health instead of 1 half year of health. So that's why that's highlighted. But everything else has been remaining the same every year. Okay. Besides requirements for graduation for credits, there also is graduation requirements for service learning. Now, this is a little confusing to students and parents, but service learning credits hours are given to students in the classroom. So the students may not even notice that they're actually receiving the credits, but the curriculum is set up where that students will get 25 hours each year they attend public school in Hartford County. So essentially, students in 8th grade have completed, if they've been in Bel Air Middle School or any middle school in the county for 3 years, they've finished their service learning requirements. So this isn't really something that you have to worry about as parents getting their requirements in. There are service learning hours required for honors programs as well. That's very different than these requirements for graduation. Next slide, please. There we go. Besides, when students want to participate in activities like sports and clubs, they must be eligible to participate. And eligibility basically means that they have no E's on their prior report card. So report card's coming out this week for 2nd quarter. So if a student is an athlete or a club attender, once the report card comes out and there's an E on their report card, they are not eligible for that sport or that club any longer. So we really encourage students to take their grades very seriously, especially if they're athletic or in some sort of club, that will affect their participation, and behavior reports as well, as far as suspensions and things. Okay, I'm going to let Ms. Hackett take it up from here, and she has some important information to share with you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knopf. So what I'm going to talk to you about right now is a Student Education Planning Guide. We abbreviate it with the letters SEPG. So if you hear that a lot, that is what we are referring to. How do you access the Student Education Planning Guide? As you can see on the screen, you go to the HCPS website, and underneath the tab that says Students, it's located right there, the Student Education Planning Guide. So basically, what is a Student Education Planning Guide? It assists families and their students with planning for their high school program, and it also has lots of great information about graduation requirements, as well as prerequisites and other information that is very, very useful. So what we can do is we can go to the Need to Know tab, and right here it outlines the graduation requirements. There's also the education plan. It lets you know each grade, the courses that are required, as you can see, 4 credits in math, 4 credits in English, and so forth and so on. And it also comes down to the assessments that are required for graduation, and it gives you information about waivers granted by MSDE. So if we go underneath the tab that says courses, okay, click on that, and we select our Bel Air High School, and we go to a specific department. It looks like we're in the business education department. If we click on the main tab of the business education department, that blue line, you can see all the offerings that we have for business. Okay, we have accounting, business, marketing, business administration, and all of the courses that are listed under there. And these are something that are called pathways, but we'll get to that with your student later on in their high school year. Okay, if we go back to business education, you can see the first course is Principles of Business Management and Entrepreneurship. Mr. Knopf talked about a key term. One of those was prerequisite. As you can see, in order for a student to take this class, there is not a prerequisite. So when you're looking through this, you can tell whether or not your student can take a certain class by whether or not there is a prerequisite. Okay. Now we can go down to a math course description. Right here, it gives you all the listings for our math courses. And again, you can tell whether or not there's prerequisites for any courses. If we can go to geometry, in order to take that course, we see that the prerequisite is Algebra 1. If we pull the tab down a little bit more, it gives you the description of what the students will learn in each course. So for this, geometry is pulled down and it gives you a definition or the explanation about what the students will be learning in geometry. Okay, so we're going to go back up. And if you could click school packet, okay. All right, if you click on Bel Air High School, you can see the registration forms will be in there for the school packet. And here is our registration form, which we're going to be talking about next anyway. Okay, so this is what the registration form looks like. What's very important is that your student puts their name on the form, as well as their student ID. I know oftentimes, sometimes students don't know their student ID or can't remember. We can look that up. However, we definitely need their first and last name on this form. If a student has a cell phone number, we'd appreciate putting that there as well. Parents, you can put your cell phone number on there. Please, if you can, also put your email. That as much information as you can put on this form that we can have would be great. So we can contact you if we have questions or contact the student. Please, please place an X on the sheet of the courses that your student would like to select, okay? We've given you an example. As you can see, health and physical education already has the X placed there. This means that your student will already be taking health and foundations of fitness their 9th grade year. So please place an X. So for English, if we go to the left-hand side, your student can choose to take either English 1 or Honors English. Again, we would like an X in one of those. The same thing for science, select one of those. Moving on to math, select one of those courses. If you see two places in the tab, that means that student is going to be taking daily math. So for Intro to Algebra and Algebra 1, for instance, that's going to be a daily math class. Okay, so you would just put an X on that one to the left-hand side of that box. You do not need to put 2 X's in front of the MA 0192 and the MA 0293, just 1 X. So talk to your math teachers about which math they would like for you or think that you should take for the next year. Moving over to social studies, again, select 1. PE is already selected and health is already selected. You're going to move on to your fine art selection. Again, lots of things to choose from. That will take you to your classes, your 8 classes. So over to the right, we would like for you to have some alternates, okay? We would like for you to enter your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice. Please place the numbers, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Now, if you take a look at the fine art section and also the electives section, you will see some things that are duplicated. So if you put an X for your fine art as fine art prep in that column, do not make it a choice on your right-hand side of your electives, okay? Do not put fine art prep again because you've already selected it as a main course on the left-hand side. And again, some of the classes will duplicate on the right-hand side as electives, so only select those one time. And we would just like the numbers as your first, second, and third choice. Okay. Also listed on here, can go back 1 second, thank you. Also listed on here, if you can scroll down to the bottom, a little halfway, where the, let's see, where the foreign languages are. If you pick French, Spanish, or German, make sure you're picking one of those, okay, as your first, second, or third choice. If you go scroll down a little bit farther, you'll see some signature programs. We have principles of art, media, and communication, and also the principles of biomedical science on there as well. And those are our signature programs. If you are selecting those, again, you're going to do a 1, 2, or a 3. All right, thank you. We can move on to the next slide. All right. So now what we're going to talk about is make sure that your student is including 8 credits. And from what I just talked about, the electives or the alternates, please be very thoughtful about that. It says choose 2, A1 or A2, but you can put numbers 1, 2, and 3. Consult with the teachers and parents when selecting your classes. So please have a conversation with your child about the classes they're choosing. Please also take a look at the SCPG. There's a full description of a course, what the expectations are or what they will be doing, and see if it's a prerequisite for another class. Consider the rigor of the whole schedule, okay? If it's an AP or honors class, again, we want your students to be successful in high school. So if you are choosing an AP or honors class, of course, there's going to be different requirements, more homework, more reading, more writing, etc. And that's great if your student can handle that, but also know that the work is going to be more than the average class. There'll be plenty of time to take those honors and AP classes. If they're just starting in 9th grade, they have up until the 12th grade to take those classes. So just be careful and mindful about the classes that you're selecting for your child. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go over the course registration app directions. Your child will also have to enter their courses on our app. The directions for the app are listed right there, and if you click on the link, they'll be able to add their courses. They have to sign into the app using their username and password, the same information they would use for their school login. They're going to fill in the courses exactly how they have them on the course registration sheet. And here's a little hint for you. If you do Control F, you can type in the course numbers to easily find your classes. You can double check that you have 8 classes and make sure you have those alternates. Okay, it says make sure you put in your pathway, but for right now, you do not have to do that. We will discuss more about the pathway as your student moves along in high school. However, please fill out the information on the registration sheet first, the hard copy that I went over, that form. That way you'll have it side by side while you're putting everything into the app. This is what the app looks like when your student logs in. It'll say on the left, the grade, and it'll say submission status, must have 8 classes, but here is the school course catalog. And again, if you do Control F and put in the course number, so English is the first course that you're going to put in, or your child's going to put in. If you do the Control F and just put the course number in, it should pop right up. To the right, it'll say Add Course, and that's what you would click. And it'll go on to the left-hand side where it says My Courses. It'll start to populate. Your alternates will also show up as well. So this is what your view that you will see. As you can see, the student put in drama, English, French, health, and wellness walking, and they have 4 total classes. Your student will have 8. Okay, this is an example of a senior. It looks like. I'm sorry, English 2. Nope, this is a sophomore. They did not finish completing their course registration. On the bottom, they listed their alternates, Intro to Marketing and Physical Education, and it gives you the credit number, and it says in the green, the alternate has been added. Now, from this screen, as you can see, the person didn't complete all 8 courses. So if you can go back, the previous slide, thank you. Okay, so when this person didn't have the 8 courses, can you go back one more slide? Thank you. It'll say you must have at least 8 credits. It will give you an error. And that's just an example of what happened with the example that we just showed you. Okay, we can move forward. And one more. So, steps for course selection. Have the conversation with your teachers and parents. So students should be having a conversation with you. Help them fill out the course selection sheet. After you do that, go into the app and put the courses in. Then return the form, that registration form, to your teacher for submission. So follow those 1 through 4 steps for course selection. Here's some helpful websites for you. It's Learning. Check out your students' It's Learning tile in the counseling page in the resources tab. We also went over the Student Education Planning Guide, also known as SEPG. Another very helpful website is our very own Bel Air High School website, where you can find this recording and also information about sports and clubs and activities, and also our great school counseling page. And here we are again, your school counselors. Again, Mr. Noss, A through F, myself, Ms. Hackett, G through MI, Ms. Knight, MO through P, and all biomed students, Ms. McKinney, Q through Z. We are here to assist and help you in any way we can, you and your student. And here we are again. We look forward to having you and your student join the Bobcat family. And what I'll do now is turn it over to Ms. Knight.
Hello, everybody. My name is Miss Knight. I'm one of the school counselors. Wow, that was a lot of information. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Welcome to being a student, because that's probably what your student felt like today. A couple things I want to just clarify for you. We go by letters of the last name. So when we're talking about the alphabet, that goes by last name. We know this is going to pose some questions, and believe me, we were all disappointed. We truly enjoy meeting with your students in person. To help facilitate and address any questions or concerns they have, school counselors will be going out to the middle school the next 2 days during lunches. That honestly is going to allow us to, two counselors to remain back at Bel Air High School so we can address the needs of our students during this busy time for us, as well as be at the middle school. So your students should have been informed today. If they are not aware, give them a prompt tomorrow as you're reviewing the registration sheet. Hey, I've got this question. Can you ask a school counselor? Two of us will be there, and we all have the same information, and we'll be very excited to share it with your student. So we'll be, I think, right outside the lunchroom at the middle school. And then we're going to go back for in person to collect the sheets and to review the app. And that's going to help ensure that we can clarify some questions if there are more questions, but double check some things. We're also available via email. What we're asking and encouraging and trying to really foster, we're trying to model when we talk about high school expectation and learning new behaviors, is really encouraging students to talk with their teachers. I personally met with the whole 8th grade team. They gave up one of their planning periods to receive some updated information and to ask for some guidance to support your student during this process. They know your student much better than we currently do. So when you have questions about what rigor of social studies or what rigor of math, should they double up on math? Should they not double up on math? Please reach out to their Bel Air Middle School teachers right now, because they're going to be so extremely helpful. They're helpful to us. But on the 16th and 17th, 2 at a time, so it'll be half the class on the 16th, and then we'll go back again on the 17th, and we'll meet we'll have the opportunity to meet with each student individually during math class. That is when we're going to collect the hard copy registration paper and also check for that information on the app. So again, we're going to be at lunches tomorrow and the following day, and then we'll come back to classes on the 16th and 17th for those one-to-one meetings. Now, when they are working on the app, one point of clarification I want to make, and I do apologize, this was on us, current 9th graders do not need to indicate a pathway. So we do from 10th grade on ask for that pathway. So a completer is something that is a state requirement and a pathway is a local requirement. As 9th graders, they tend to just get their feet wet with a variety of, I don't know, experiences. They may take a business class, get into music, and they may try biomed. So we do, and we're very fortunate as the school to have 2 signature programs. We have a signature program of the interactive media and of biomed. And if you're curious to learn a little more about the signature programs and what those 4 classes entail, I encourage you to go to the Student Education Planning Guide, and you'll see signature programs. And if you scroll down, you'll see them come up, and it'll give you a description of all 4 classes. I do want to emphasize that the biomed, which is different this year, it is open enrollment. There is no application, there is no testing. It is a rigorous program, so the expectation is to continue with that rigor. We're looking at those honors level students that will be taking honors biology, honors or AP Chem, eventually probably AP biology. So that is the rigor of student that when we get to the 11th grade and 12th grade that we're looking at. But it is an open elective for any of our incoming 9th graders. And I do want to encourage you to consider coming to the February 15th, the executive functioning. Executive functioning is where we learn how to have that self-awareness, self-assessment. How do we establish goals and organize tasks for ourselves, planning, a little emotional regulation. Many of us, we find ourselves and students have been struggling, especially during the virtual learning and the transition back to school. So you're part of the Bobcat Nation now, and we'd be very excited if that you're able to attend. So at this time, I'll answer any questions there may be. Mr. Redmond, are there some questions for me?
So far, you've covered the big ones. One that just rolled in, could you talk about foreign language requirement for graduation? Yes, no, or how does that work?
Wonderful. That's a really good question. So foreign world language is not a requirement. That being said, we tend to strongly encourage it. The University of Maryland university system does look at that when they're looking at, so 2 years of a world language tends to be a minimum requirement for many of the four-year universities. But if your student is just not, world language is not for them, and we do have some of those students, we do have other opportunities to still demonstrate good rigor. We have the new CTE program, our signature programs meet those requirements, as well as we have a phenomenal business, and we've got some tech. So there are other ways to meet the high school graduation requirements.
One thing that's been popping up, and obviously, there has not been any final decisions on redistricting, but this also goes in line for students that are possibly at Swan Creek and transferring in. Could you talk about either specifics for students that are currently enrolled at Swan Creek and transferring in, or if parents are anticipating being affected by redistricting in our classes being different than those other high schools? What would those registration processes look like?
Okay, absolutely. And I'm sorry, I'm sure this is a stressful time, and for some of you, exciting time, thinking about next year coming back. So the app that we're asking your students to put that information, that goes into a database that if your student does transfer, so if they're at Swan Creek and Swan Creek puts in that information, when they register at Bel Air High School, I'm immediately going to be able to see what classes they opted for. Now, you are correct, some of the class offerings may change. So if you're currently at Swan Creek, you can go to our Bel Air High School website and you can see what classes that we offer. Swan Creek may not offer all of those, but you'll have an idea when you come to register at Bel Air High School. So for those coming from another school, please go through that registration process at the current school you're at, discuss rigor of level with those current teachers, and then take a sneak peek at what we offer. And when you meet with your high school, Bel Air High School counselor, which will typically occur in June, typically around mid-June, towards the end of the year, we start scheduling those meetings. We'll sit down with you and go over your schedule. Please do not worry that you're going to miss out on opportunities. We take into consideration students coming in, so don't worry about that. If you're picking some electives as a freshman, we typically leave plenty of room in those electives. For those that may be redistrict, I know there's a board meeting coming up and they're going to be talking about that. The information in our system for the classes, if you do choose or must go attend another school in Harford County, that same information will go to the next school. So it's essential that you complete the registration process with us now, enter that information in the app so that the next school can see that information. And if you're curious about what other programs they may offer, because schools have various signature programs, take a look at the SEPG and you can go into Falston or C. Milton and see what electives that they may offer, because it does vary school by school.
Gotten a couple questions on details surrounding the upcoming meeting on executive functioning that's going to be happening in a couple weeks.
Oh, wonderful. So a little more details. So we reached out to a speech language pathologist that I've collaborated with a couple times, and she does some individual and some group work, both virtually and one-on-one, and has a practice called Phoenix Services. And her name is Amy Bland. And it is going to be held in a virtual setting just like this. So I'll do an introduction for her. She'll go over a PowerPoint. We're estimating it'll take about 25 to 30 minutes, and she's going to provide parents with a variety of resources. So this is to target parents on increasing your awareness and understanding of executive functioning. as a parent, when I see my student is struggling with setting goals, accomplishing tasks, which might be homework, not organizing their room, not getting motivated, she'll come up with some strategies and ways to identify things that you could do, and if it's falling within an age appropriate range or if it's a little outside of that. So the link for that will be on the Bel Air our Bobcat website. So you could look right on the main page, just like you did for this evening, and it'll be right there for you to click on that and join just like you are tonight. And if you're busy on the 15th, having maybe a post Valentine's Day outing, it's going to be recorded. So you'll be able to access that later also.
Could you talk a little bit about the difference between honors classes and AP classes?
Absolutely. So that's a good question. We offer limited AP classes. Actually, our only one that we offer for our freshmen is AP government. So when you think of each of the levels, think about increased independence, rigor, and pace. So regular government, it's teacher teaching the content to all of their students at the average pace and trying to meet the needs of all of the students within that class. The honors, we do increase the rigor, but also the expectation of collaboration with peers and independence. And AP is really going to knock that up there a little bit more and ask for students to do maybe an extra presentation. And that's where it makes some of our students a little anxious. But that independence, so we're teaching that independence, how to study on their own, and the pace is a little quicker. They do have the opportunity of taking an end of the year exam via the College Board, an AP exam, which gives them the opportunity for college credit. So that's a wonderful opportunity for our students. I will share that many of our freshman students are able to take those honors and AP classes and be very successful in those classes. So please, again, consult with your middle school teachers, your students' middle school teachers, to find out what their recommendations are. They are well aware of what the rigor and what the classes look like with us. If they don't happen to take an honors or an AP their freshman year, they will have that opportunity. It is open access. HCPS has open access, so just because they opt not to as a 9th grader does not limit their options at any time in the future.
Timeline for when registration forms are due for current 8th grader.
Perfect. So we'll be out at the middle school the next 2 days during lunches to help answer questions and hopefully make them feel a little less anxious. And then we will be returning. So half of the teachers and counselors, help me out. I believe it's Miss Ferrari, and is this Miss Knox that we're going out on the 16th? The math teachers will know. I don't have the list in front of me, but on the 16th and on the 17th. So teachers and parents could have those conversations and students could have those forms filled out prior to the 15th. Make sure they're at school waiting for us. And then when we come on the 16th, we'll review half of the forms that day. And on the 17th, we'll come back and we'll meet with the other 2 classes.
So, Ms. Knight, we've gotten a couple of questions on redistricting. We're going to have Mr. DeLeva kind of step in. We don't have a ton of information, but we think it'll be good to have him on screen instead of you. He's going to provide kind of what we know about it currently, but there's been enough questions that we thought. So, Mr. Kassouf, if you could transfer over to Mr. DeLeva for this next round of questions.
All right, good thing I left my tie on. Now, so for redistricting, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but there is the Board of Ed meeting. I want to say it's February 14. I believe that final decision will be made and voted on at that meeting. And then after that, students that are affected, families that are affected, should be mailed a letter from our central office indicating how it is impacting their school choice and what the options are then for the next school year. So again, that should be after that February 14 Board of Ed meeting, and then there will be a letter that's sent to families and students that are impacted by the redistricting option.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. DeLeva. Mr. Kasuf, we can transfer back to Ms. Knight. Ms. Knight, could you talk a little bit about the registration app? Are they able to work on that at home, or does it have to be done at school?
No, that's wonderful. COVID helped us in some ways have access to things outside the school building. So absolutely, please help your student with the app at home. So the link is in their It's Learning. So you'll need them next to you with their school computer. Go into the It's Learning, and I've personally placed everything in their counseling. So if they go to their 8th grade virtual school counseling tile, under resources, you'll see the PowerPoint that we presented this evening. You'll see the video that they got to watch today in class, along with all the forms. There will be a link for the app. So if you click on the app, they can go ahead and select their classes. There's no rush to do it. We did provide them some time. So fill out the paper form, think about it a little bit, but if you could complete that app prior to the 16th, we would greatly appreciate it.
As of right now, we do not have any more outstanding questions in the Q&A. Our team that's been working in the background has done a great job. We will be posting an FAQ document, which will capture most of what's been asked if it wasn't student specific. So if you want to go back and access that, that will be there as well. Can you just run through one more time the path to access the registration app?
Absolutely. So have your student go to their It's Learning page and open up the 8th grade virtual school counseling tile. Then go to resources, and under resources, you're going to see the 2022-23 registration folder. Within that folder, we have a folder that actually has a wealth of information related to departments. Our departments did a fabulous job. So if you're curious about what journalism is, journalism did some information in the English folder. Our arts department did a fabulous job providing information. So each department at the high school provided information within that folder. You'll also, if your student has lost or misplaced their paper form, you could also just print another one for them. And then there's going to be the link for the app. And the app will just open up in a new window. Your students should just be able to log right into it like they log into any school-based computer. So it's not their whole email. It's typically their first, their last name, and then whatever their password. And then that app with their name will come right up. If they have any struggles or problems, just have them reach out to us or email us and we'll assist. And their teachers, if they're at school, can probably help with that. They can save it as a draft. Make adjustments and changes. Once they submit it, it's submitted and they can't make any changes at that point, but we can. So you can just make notes on the registration paper, and when we meet with them on the 16th or the 17th, we can make any adjustments that are needed. I really appreciate you spending the time to give us support, to support your students. And to participate. We really do this. It's a team effort, and to make this happen. So thank you so much for spending your evening and supporting us and your students with the registration and course selection. We're so excited for next year. I can't wait to get over to the middle school tomorrow to see the excitement and to address any questions. So we look forward to working with you next year. You have a wonderful evening.